There we go.
Uh, cool. I think that okay. I'm just making sure the stream also is connected back. I think it's gonna start a new part of it. But any questions? My bad if you said yes or no.
No, I actually was sharing that I did participate in a Sherlock contest last week,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, so I was able to go through, understand the code, and identify some low-level vulnerabilities. But yeah, I was not able to find anything medium or high in that. Uh, yeah, if I had known this idea of uh, finding out an attack vector and then trying to analyze if we can prove that that exists in the code, I think this was a key thing for me today.
Awesome. I love hearing that, man. Yeah, I think I responded to it, but I was frozen. I basically was just when I was responding and I was muted or frozen. I was basically just saying, yeah, I love to hear that, and that, yeah, anything that I can do that can help in increasing your chances of finding vulnerabilities. That's what I hope for. That's what Robert and I are intended for. This is that people can take this away and start finding more vulnerabilities than we could. Um, so yeah, that's dope.
Thanks.
Of course. Brian, are you good? Did you have any questions?
No, not for me. It's been cool to watch you go through it. It's helpful.
Nice, nice. All right, so definitely let me know if I freeze again. That was perfect because I was like, oh snap, my bad. But anyone who's watching the stream, it this will be in two parts. So the second part is going to be this next half, which is actually perfect because we're not going to be looking at any more live code audits. We're going to be continuing with our slides. So, all right, so I touched on a little bit about this, but we have different audit types that are very important in the security space. So right now, contests are on fire. Things like Code for Arena, Sherlock are what most people are coming into the space and diving into. And honestly, excuse me, honestly, I would support this. I've seen a lot of mixed views about this, but I support that contests are very popular and important because it's really pushing the needle for the standards in the security space. And before this, whenever I was with an audit firm, I didn't really know how good my skills were, or if I was even making an impact. Um, and I was finding a few findings here and there, but it wasn't until I started contests when I realized there was so much more that I needed to learn. And I really love participating in contests now because I haven't I haven't landed on the top 30, for a contest yet, and that's something I'm really trying to shoot for is at least showing, proving that I can be a top auditor, and that's something that I suggest people to participate in because it will show proof, that hey, you can audit something, you're doing a really great job. Um, so yeah, that's my thoughts and views on audit contests. Next is bounty hunting. So that's more so for Immunify. The things we teach in this course can definitely be applied, but there will have to be some more research on at least the process for like submitting findings and how do you go with working with the Immunify team. They have a plenty of documentation and plenty of onboarding um, examples for you to, you know, look into some code and start auditing it and maybe submit those findings. I personally will not jump into Immunify until I have ranked in like the top five leaderboards for some of these audit contests. And the reason for that is because those are some very tough bugs to find. And usually it's code that's been around for a while that's kind of been battle tested. So if you can find a bug, you are rewarded with a lot of money. Um, Next is audit firms. This is currently where I work and where I'm really focusing most of my time. Um, I honestly like working with an audit firm right now, at least with audit firms. I won't be biased about, the firm I currently work with, but um, essentially the reason I like audit firms is because you get to learn from a lot of experienced people who are in the space. You get to learn from experienced people who are maybe not big into blockchain, but are very big into like cybersecurity, or may have some other things they could teach you. Um, and since I've only been in the space for a little over a year, I still feel like I'm very new to a lot of what's happening. So audit firms is a way for, in my opinion, to really learn about Web3 security. And at the same time, you get access to very interesting clients. You don't have to find clients on your own. It's your audit firm does all that. They have a sales team and they pair you with a client. So I really like that part about working with audit firms. I don't really have to do a lot of the work for finding who I get to work with and setting up all the business stuff beforehand. It's really just here's some code, here's what you got to do, here's how long you have, and they leave me alone to do what I want to do. So I really love that lifestyle, and I suggest that for anyone who's new in the space and looking for opportunities to join an audit firm. And then lastly is independent audits. This is something that Pashav on Twitter, if y'all are active there, he's someone that a lot of people and even myself follow. He's like a superstar solo auditor who does independent audits and makes a good bit of money every single month to doing his own thing, auditing independently. Um, that is a place to get to, but I won't say that's a great place to start off with because you really have to be really great at auditing to be able to do stuff like that. So that's a definitely a journey to take in the auditing space, but those are just the different types, and I want to introduce you all to those so that you can know that there's more things you can do in addition to Code for Arena and Sherlock. Um, there's other areas you can kind of pivot into as an auditor. Um, any questions on this? I know a lot of people usually don't really know where to start with when it comes to auditing, but um, yeah, any questions on that piece? Okay.
Yeah. So I had a question on trying to be part of an audit firm.
Yeah.
So I've just started on auditing smart contracts, and the previous one was the first audit. Uh, do you know if I can give someone like me an intern position or something where I can work with an expert, or do you know of any places where look for such things?
Yeah, yeah. So currently, the auditing firm I'm at, it's a very small shop, and there isn't any open positions. But I will plug in. There is Web3, and this is how I first started. At least how I first started getting into the space, and like how I looked for an audit job. So this board, actually, I'll post it to our chat. This board is a great place to start um, because it has all kinds of jobs within Web3 security, and there may be some intern-based positions that you can get into, and then also, if you're experienced in like another area of tech, you may be able to get into a position where um, like fraud associate new grad. So this is more entry level. You may be able to find a position that is exactly what you're looking for, but also meet some skill sets that you have. That way, you wouldn't have to worry about being like a high level auditor. You can just use some of the skills you already have to get into the position. And just to share a little bit, that's how I got into the auditing space. Is I originally joined another firm, to do some blockchain security, but they also wanted some consulting experience and wanted some Web2 security experience. And so I was able to get that role, and then it helped me pivot into security auditing. So basically, short answer is I currently, like, we don't, at the current firm I'm at, we don't have any open positions available. But there are a lot of other firms that are hiring and that may accept interns, um, and that also will hire junior level analysts.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. I was aware of Web3 career, but I didn't know about the category of security in there. So thanks for that.
Of course. And another one that was really big, this is actually how I got my first job as well, is I don't know if let's see. I don't know if I don't know if this will be on here as well, but senior security engineer. Oh wow. So yeah, Twitter is another great source. I know for a lot of like in a lot of other industries, it's like LinkedIn and Indeed and Google job boards and stuff like that. But for the Web3 space, looking at using Twitter as your tool and posting and connecting with people is really, really helpful for getting a job as well. Because you start becoming a part of the community and people will just may reach out or you just build those connections and sometime in the future you may be able to work with them. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting again. Thank you.
of course. And now that you mentioned that, I think what we should do near the end of this course is also work like have a session that's specifically focused on how long it takes to get a job, how to get there, the whole nine. I think that would be a really great thing. I know for the most part we were focusing on bounty contest, but I'll bring this back to talk with Robert on like, hey, maybe we can do something in addition to help people in terms of like how do you job hunt, how do you interview, stuff like that.
Yeah. That should help. Yeah.
Cool. Brian, any questions on um, the auditing piece, audit types?
No, it sounds like contests are where you start if you're just starting out.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think contests are a great way to start, and even if you're in the space, it's a great way to keep the skills up and to pretty much be relevant, stay relevant in the space. All right, so I know we're getting short on time, because this ends usually at 1, uh, or 1:30, 1 to 1:30, or sorry, 11:30 to 1:30. But I'm gonna try to start wrapping it up. We really are pretty much at the end here. Um, but what I want to do is quickly just do a one vulnerability deep dive. So talking about integer overflows and underflows. So many of you probably already know about this one. But essentially the idea is that you're attempting to create a numeric value outside of the range of a data type. So with Solidity, when you have uint8, this essentially is holding 255 bits, or it holds the number up to 255. And if you, let's say, add to this number, you will have an overflow if it's uint8, right? And the reason for that is because you've exceeded the limits of the range of data type. You exceeded the limits of that data type range. And so if you add to that, it essentially is just going to wrap around back to 0. And if you subtract from a uint8, it's going to wrap back around to 255. So a lot of people like to explain integer overflows and underflows like a odometer on a car. Once it gets to that max value, it's just going to start right back again at 0. And this is a really great vulnerability to understand. Not only because you need to know the history of Solidity, but you also need to know how this bug works today. So I'm not going to go through this. I'm just going to post it in the chat for you all to see. But a real world example of like an overflow bug that's been found recently. So I'll throw this in the chat. But just a quick history. Beforehand, before versions Pragma 0.8, you essentially, your overflows would do this right here. It would just wrap around and you would have issues. Now that we have upgraded to, I think we're at like 0.8.19 now, I think. But once you start using Pragma 8.0 and up, or 0.8 and up, it essentially will revert as soon as an overflow happens. Now, while that's a good thing that, if an overflow occurs, it will just fail because it's unwanted, that can have side effects in your code. And let's say you have an overflow example in your code. it may create some type of denial of service situation where instead of it overflowing, it just reverts and it blocks whatever critical functionality or transaction needs to happen in your code base. So I just wanted to quickly and briefly go through integer overflows and underflows. This is something most of you should know, but it's just good to bring up, the basic vulnerabilities as we're learning about other things within the auditing space. Any questions on this integer overflow, underflow?
I'm good.
Okay, cool. All right, y'all. So it's that moment where we would like to have one of you just briefly go through one of the CTF challenges we've completed. I guess I should probably ask first. Did you all complete last week's CTF assignment?
Oh, I'm still in week 2.
Okay.
I'm
I
doing
did it.
week 2 assignments. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Brian, you
I
said
did
you,
it.
you did it?
Yeah, I had to put it was the first time I think it was basically the first time I did programming and deployment of a contract like on my own without following a tutorial or anything.
Nice. No, that's a big feat to do.
And, yeah,
I know it.
ChatGPT for sure.
Yeah, hey, it doesn't. Yeah, whatever tools you use to get there, that's really awesome to hear. Because at first, you might go through, steps and copy exactly what they do online, and then you get to the point where you're like, okay, let me try this on my own. And that's awesome. No matter if you use ChatGPT or whatever it was, even if you use a report write-up, that's great to hear. So I guess next question is, are you free to share at least your thought process, how you completed the challenge, and just walk us through how you did it?
Yeah, I can do that.
Perfect. And the reason why this is good to do is because in security, our brains approaches problems differently. And it's great. It's a great way to see, like, okay, I solved the challenge this way, but someone else solved it this way. And I still continuously learn from people, and even from different write-ups of reading some of the earlier CTF challenges to this day. So it's really great to see, how people solve it. All right, so I'm going to let you share your screen. I'm going to stop sharing mine. And yeah, feel free to take it away. Okay, I can see yours. I think your mic is muted though.
Yeah, sorry. I was just getting stuff set up. Okay. So let me switch my network. So I think this was on CoinFlip, right? Yeah, so the first thing I did here was just to sort of read through the contract to get myself familiar with what was actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got some variables that are defined at the beginning. This one is hard coded. The constructor just sets this wins variable to 0, and then we've got a function called flip taken in a Boolean. So essentially, we're going to guess what the outcome of this flip is. That's what this argument is.
Yep.
And it's going to return a Boolean to tell us whether we got it right or not. And so this is looking at the previous block number's hash. That's what this block value is. So it's looking at what was the previous block number, and then the hash of that. That's what's going to be stored in this block value. And it's reverting if this last hash value is already equal to that previous hash. And if it's not, it's setting it equal to it. And then it's taking the actual calculation to do this coin flip is just taking the hash from the previous block and dividing it by this big factor. And then it's asking whether It is. This is the part I wasn't 100% on, but I think it's checking whether it's greater than or less than one.
Mm-hmm. Really quick, can you zoom in on this?
Oh, yeah. Because I've got Actually, let me do this. Does that help at all? I can zoom
Uh,
into.
yeah, zoom in right there. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
perfect. That's perfect.
yeah.
Okay.
So this is the main operation here. It's taking the hash of the last block. That's what this block value is, and dividing it by this big factor, and that's what your coin flip number is, and it's essentially seeing whether it's. I think whether it's greater than or less than one. I couldn't. This is like a truthy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this double equals is truthy. Is it kind of equal to one? So I thought that was like, is it close to one, or is it way
Yeah.
above or way under? What exactly is this part?
Yeah, so what this is doing, and so what I like to do, and this is a great question. So what I like to do with this, I kind of like take the factor and I'll in my head, I'll basically like make the number small. So like what I did with this is I made factor like I just in my head said it was 5, and then the block value I said it was like 11. So or like let's say I made it let's say I made the block value 5 for example.
Hmm.
So it takes block value as 5 divided by 5, which is 1. And so coin flips stores that value as 1. And then what's happening is this is something called a tertiary operation. It's basically like an if statement, but it's just using this question mark and semicolon thing as an example. So how you read it is if coin flip is equal to 1, return true. If not, return false. That's essentially how you would read a tertiary. I always say it wrong, but that's essentially how you would read that operation. So
Got it.
basically, it's just saying, hey, does coin flip equal 1? And if so, return that first value after the question mark, and if not, return that value after the semicolon.
Okay.
So
I thought that was it. I just thought it was more like, what if it's 1.5, and what if
mhm.
it's 0.9? Does that still equal true? Because this is a truthy. I guess it would not. Is that
Yeah,
right?
it would not because it's a strict equals.
Okay.
So
Got
it's
it.
basically strict equality. If it was like if it had the greater than or equal to sign, then that would bring additional things in. But with equals equals, it's basically saying, does it equal 1?
Okay, so this isn't like with JavaScript where you have equals equals and then you have equals 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 for.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's not like it's even though Solidity is very similar to JavaScript, it's not to the point where yeah, I understand what you're saying. Where like the equals equals, it may allow some it may allow some variable stuff to happen, and
Exactly.
certain values may be different. But with equals equals equals, it's like strict equality.
Got it.
So when you see this in Solidity, imagine equals equals to be that equals equals equals.
Got it. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, so if we've got equals to one, like Miles' example gave, then the side is going to be true. And you would guess that at the beginning, or if you would put that in as your argument in the function in the first place, you would have won, right? So
Hmm.
where just seeing the count the consecutive wins is now moved from 0 to 1, and then you're returning true out of the function. Otherwise, you didn't win. You said you guessed false, and so you didn't get consecutive wins. So then the idea is that uh, you can keep doing this. Let's see. Well, the idea was to keep doing this. Oh, well, that's right. Yeah. So should I go through and kind of look at the methods just to sort of continue and show what I did?
Um, It's really up to you how deep you want to go into it. I think what this is, what you can do is go through at least how you set up the attack. And the reason why I don't really want you to go through the answer just yet is because some people may
Got
not
it. Yeah.
finish it.
Yep.
And so yeah, you can just go through like your how did you attack it, and then it kind of leaves it up to whoever's watching this to be able to investigate and be able to solve the problem if they're having issues.
Got it. Yeah. So essentially, you get a new instance here and it deploys this contract to the blockchain and you can start interacting with it.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to see, there was a hint somewhere here. Maybe it's after you get the instance, but there's a hint that says, you need to go use remix or something. And a remix is a way that you can go, deploy another contract
Yep.
that you can use to attack this one. And so that's what I ended up doing was coding up another contract. I had to learn, I think I used an interface too. I had to learn like what that was and how that sort of fits into the contract that I was creating in the first place. So I ended up creating two contracts. One was an interface and one was the attacker to
Nice.
interface with and attack this contract. And so without getting into the details of like what I did, that was at a high level,
Yeah.
how I did it.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. That's something that's cool that they use the interface. Because I don't think when I did this problem I used the interface, so I'd be interested to know like a
I
little
mean,
bit
I
more
might have made it
familiar
more
with it.
complicated than I
Yeah,
needed to.
but you learn how to use it, and that's the cool thing about these CTF challenges though, is like you learn how to. That's why I love it is you learn how to solve the problem no matter which way. Like there's no right or wrong. So that's just awesome. I'm just applauding you for like digging deep into learning an interface and then learning how to use that to do this attack. That's pretty cool.
Thanks. Yeah. So I guess you can attack this contract that's deployed on the chain without using an interface.
Yeah, you can do this without an interface. And I'll just briefly explain how I did it, and that way it gives people like a guide of like how to solve the problem. So I set up a attack contract, and essentially I just I copied the code. So what I did is I just copied the code from let me share my screen. Screen one. I'm not going to share anything. I'm just going to walk through it. But essentially, I copied the code for, let's see, what was it again? Coin flip? Yeah.
Yeah.
So essentially, what I did is I copied this code, and I would calculate the value beforehand, and then I just called this flip with the value that I had calculated with the code I had copied. Um, and so that's essentially how I did it. I guess in a sense that could kind of be, it can sound like an interface, but I basically just called this contract using its code copied. And that's how I did it.
Yeah. I mean, I did it. I guess I did it the same way. I just thought you needed an I don't know. Maybe it was ChatGPT that told me I needed an interface,
Interface.
so I just did it. I
Yeah.
think that's what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's really cool that you use the interface to do it. Um, but yeah, I can see why. I basically you made probably made an interface of like from this contract, um, and just use that interface to call the code. So yeah, that's that's
Mhm.
that's probably a much cleaner way, honestly, than the way that I'm doing it.
Because I didn't realize the interface itself doesn't get that's already part of the bytecode
Mm-hmm.
of the contract that you end up putting up there. So you don't end up deploying the interface. It's
Yeah.
already just sort of part and parcel with the attacker contract. So that was interesting to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. Um, I might end up reaching out sometime later and be like, "Hey man, how'd you do that? How'd you set up the interface?"
I don't know if I remember. I have to look back at the code and remember this up.
Yeah. Um, Okay, cool. So I think that was it. Wait, there's an optional one for reentrancy. Did you do that one by any chance?
No, I did not.
Okay, that's all good. I'll walk through that one. So, and it's okay if no one did it. Anyone who's listening in, that was optional. Um, so let's see. Let's go to reentrancy. Which one is this? I think it was 10. Yeah. All right. So, just at a high level, reentrancy attack is where you call back into a contract before it finishes one transaction. So, with this withdrawal function, we see that it's sending something before before it does other things within this transaction. So whenever this is called, it's sending some money to my address. But what I could do is I can create a contract that it sends something to. And once my contract receives some money, I can call directly back into this transaction before it finishes out the steps of these right here. And that's the typical reentrancy attack. And so with this, you pretty much take that logic I just explained to anytime your contract or anytime you receive some money, you call back into this function and continue to withdraw money until you drain the contract. Um, and that's how the attack works. That's kind of the answer for how you would complete this. It's just the implementation that might be a little difficult. Is how do you go to do this? But yeah, feel free to reach out if you need help with this problem if you try it later on down the line. But
Did you
this,
use the fallback? Like put the functionality in the fallback right
yep,
down there? Like
yeah,
would that work?
yeah. No,
Okay.
that's exactly correct. So I copied this right here. I use this receive function. You can use receive or you can reuse another or just use a fallback function. And every time it sent money to my contract, I would invoke that fallback. Or sorry, every time it sent money to my contract, it would invoke my fallback function, which would then call back into this to perform the attack.
That's cool. So that's another thing I learned. Like I learned a lot
Yeah.
in that last one because you have to have so I had to put money on the contract that I deployed for it to spend for gas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I had to receive funds,
Oh
so I needed
yeah,
that
you had to learn
function. I didn't
how to
realize. So it was
implement
like
that.
one thing after another kept going wrong, but I was learning each time as things
Mm-hmm.
kept breaking. I was like, okay, this is what a fallback function is for, so it can actually receive funds. So let me put it in. So I learned what the functionality of that was.
Yeah. Yep. That's awesome. Yep. That's why I love these CTFs. I'm not even that far ahead of you all. I think I'm a little bit down near recovery, and I've learned so much by doing some of these other things. And yeah, that's exactly it. All right, so y'all, we're at the end of this session. The thing that we're gonna have this set up a little bit later, but the two challenges we want you all to do is to do telephone. That's this one right here. Um, so I don't want to show the answer there, but essentially, yeah, you have this contract here, and I think you need to figure out how to change the owner. And then the next one is uh, delegation. You pretty much you learn how to work with delegate calls, and you understand what state preserving means in terms of making these. So really great ones. I think the idea of this one is to try to become the owner of this contract, and you'll complete the challenge. So we have those two. I'll say, things can be optional, but try to do both of those. And then next, similar to what we have been doing, is since I went through the quest code, I think it just makes sense to pick a finding from here that may interest you and explain it and submit that as a PR in the in our assignment folder we'll have set up for you later on. But that's it. That's essentially the assignment. It's going to be helpful in learning some more things about Solidity, and then also you get some more exposure to, you know, an interesting protocol. So with that, I appreciate you guys. Any questions on everything we covered today, anything we talked about, that you all had? Thank you. Okay, guys. Well, I know it's been a long session. We went a little bit over, or not a little bit over, but we're pretty much at time. So yeah, as always, if you all have any questions, feel free to ping me, reach out to me, DM me. And so yeah, I'll make sure that I connect with Robert so we can have the homework set up. We'll probably set it up by end of Sunday, beginning of the week. But if you watch this session, you'll pretty much know what needs to be done. So even if we don't have it set up, you can get started on those assignments and be ready to submit it as a PR when we release it out to the class.
Cool. Thanks, Miles. Appreciate the time.
No problem.
Thank
Of course,
you,
of course.
Miles. Yeah.
Cool, y'all. Well, have a great week and let me know if y'all need anything.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one, y'all.
Thanks, too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.